Welcome to episode 7 of News with a View, hosted by myself, John A. Costa, Fat Cat Production. It is Tuesday, and I'm doing this in the morning. And we will be discussing multiple items today, and going with the major news event is this the Trump and the Smith report that now is being discussed openly. Smith, of course, in his report said that it was his belief that they could secure convictions of multiple felonies. Now, this is the January 6th report, not the document case report. If I sound a little nasally and still have this cold, today drinking tea. What the Smith report did find is that there was no evidence that Trump caused the January 6th, or he pushed these people to riot. Smith said he couldn't find it. And as for insurrection, Smith was, it's a very old law, and it can't be an insurrection if you're already in power. So he kind of figured he couldn't reach that bar. But where he did go after Trump and would have, and it just seems interesting, that Trump deceived and was lying about election fraud. And I find that interesting because, well, all politicians lie. It's what they do. And I just couldn't see where this was such a big deal. It could undermine people saying that it's all fake and corrupt. Yes, it could. And I think that Trump could have proved there was election fraud. Now, it could have been 2 cases. And they were, well, it's not the mass thing. And he goes, well, how did I know? Originally, you told me there was no fraud. And here we found fraud. To what extent, I wasn't allowed to dig deeper. I was stopped. The same people that ran the elections covered it up. That's what he would have said. And you didn't give me the chance or have my people go in there. And it would have been this long battle, which I think Trump would have won. What really this comes up on, as far as I'm concerned, is your free speech rights and your right of expression. I'm allowed to express that I'm a victim. Something happened to me, I'm a victim. Trump saying there was fraud. I should have won the election. It was, these votes showed up in the middle of the night. And continuing that echo for the last 4 years. There was, fake electoral people, and that's a whole different case. But Trump himself, who, he's really being indicted for using his free speech. And, Smith kind of alluded to some of that this isn't free speech. This was hostile with an intent to cause, this and sow the seed of doubt and I haven't read the whole report, um, but this is basically how it's going to come out, and the document case that's still being up in the air, and the bottom line again with all this was that Smith was never appointed to his special investigating uh, position in the proper manner. And I feel that any evidence gathered, anything that was done under the guise that, hey, I'm allowed to ask these people the question. Now he asked, what, 250 people volunteered to talk to him about it. He did not have to subpoena them. They were willing. So, they ask a question. All right, they're willing to talk to me. That's fine. But he had about 55 people and a couple of dozen more that he had to subpoena. Well, he didn't have the right to do that. At least the way I would argue it, I don't know. But if you weren't appointed to do the job, how could you go out there and just start going to the courts and asking for a subpoena? And a grand jury and a list of other things. I just have a major problem with how it was handled. And, and would it have been handled correctly? Who knows? But it wasn't. And that's important to our legal system. And it's important to Donald Trump's rights, your rights, and my rights. We all got them. So that's going to be the crust, the crust that they're going to go out there and go, this is how the dish was baked, and this is what was done. And we found all this evidence of him saying this was no good here, and this person did that, and, this state, shenanigans. Again, it's really free speech, and if that's what they had a problem with, and Smith states that the voters saved Donald Trump from this. Now, he dismissed the charges. Everything has been dismissed against him on the federal side without prejudice, which means that it could be when he's no longer president. And he was, remember, this happened when he was a private citizen at that point, on some of it. Yeah, they could go after him again. Now, of course, that's not going to happen. This is over. And they'll just keep serving the same slice of bread over and over and over again for the next 4 years. Trump had a major issue with Mike Myers and Comcast. That Mike Myers says all this stuff and, it's terrible. But isn't that the same argument that Mike Myers has the right to say, he has free speech? He's not defaming anyone. He's just repeating events and, making jokes about it. And, and Trump said he's going to, he'd like to punish Comcast. You gotta worry when certain words are used and connected. Saturday Night Live has gotten very political. They were always somewhat political, but in a different type of way. And now it's very on the nose. I particularly don't like that. I just didn't find that to be particularly entertaining. Some stuff was, and some stuff isn't, and some stuff is just funny. And it's funny, and you could laugh about it. I just don't like how it's being done. Uh, Trump is saying that these late night shows are really just fronts for uh, Democratic contribution. It's a it's not really an entertainment show. It's 1 hour of, if you hate Trump and hate the Republicans, donate here. Which again, if that's the case, don't watch it. Don't watch the show. You can. You don't have to watch it. I don't think I've ever watched a Jimmy Kimmel, Myers, uh, Colbert. I just never watched those shows. Uh, even Colbert, when it was my job to watch his show, I put that on the smallest monitor and just turned the sound down. And if I saw the little VU meters flashing around, he's talking. That's good enough for me. But my job wasn't to uh, analyze the show. My job was to get the show in our facility and up onto the satellite so you people at home could watch it, and insert commercials in. And it was a whole dance. But I never liked his show. Now, going on that, and getting done with that little rant, Vice President-elect Vance stated that he feels there should be no pardon for any violent January 6th protester who was arrested and convicted. And I feel the same way. It's you could protest, you could scream, you could march in the streets, you could block the road, blocking the road, but you could do that in a manner that no one's getting hurt. But the minute you hurt someone, yeah, no, that you can't have that. And if you did it, you could plead, hey, I got caught up in the moment. That's not who I really was, and I'm sorry, but I allocate to what I did, and I'm asking the court to show me mercy that I didn't show the person I injured. But my state of mind was, and you might have a judge that go, all right, you push the guy down, the guy didn't get really hurt, and the person might be there and go, no, he pushed me down, and my back hurts, and I got this, I couldn't go to work, and okay, all right, 6 months, yeah, let that be a lesson. Let that be a lesson. So I have no problem with Vice President-elect Vance coming out and doing that. And I'm hoping that President-elect Trump on January 20th does pardon nonviolent protesters. It's the only right thing to do. Interesting. There was an interesting article that I read from MSNBC, and it was how did the Department of Justice get outplayed? I mean, all the time under Biden. And, where they, to them, this is MSNBC and their people, that we had Trump. We had him right where we wanted him. How were we outplayed? How did Trump outplay the Department of Justice and get everything to literally go away? And I'm talking federal. I'm not talking New York State or any other state that might have something going on. And I'm going to tell you why. Because he had good lawyers. And they went right after the constitutionality, the authority, and the practice. And they they got out lawyered. Trump exercised his rights, demanded things that go to the Supreme Court and stuff that any of us, it just 99.9% it would never happen. But he did. And of course, because this was things that happened when he was a president, things that happened that he wasn't the president, this became a flashpoint, and things got pushed up the steps. So, but in the end, Trump was elected president, and I believe that would they have just left a lot of this stuff alone. The document case, I kind of get the government's stance on that, and the the idea that the security and these top secret documents. I mean, it was the same thing everyone screamed about Hillary Clinton. So if you screamed it about her, you could scream it about him. Fair is fair. Uh, but again, if he wasn't appointed and this was not what he was supposed to do, or what he was supposed to go and ask before he did it, and there should have been oversight and technicalities, but you could see technicalities matter. But I still think that if they would have just left him alone, uh, Trump might not have won. I don't know if Biden would have been able to, uh, you know, be president. Uh, they did a pretty good job of hiding it, and people did a very good job of denying what they knew, which is, to me, even a greater sin against America than whether or not Trump took papers with him and he wasn't selling them. And he might have been, going, hey, pal, but he wasn't using them for blackmail or anything like that. He just had them. Um, what was perpetrated on the American voters was here we have a healthy president. He's older, oldest president we had, but he's as fit as a fiddle and does everything he's supposed to do. And uh, it just wasn't the right thing to do. So I'm going to go back up to my still for a second and talk, because I'm going to be changing banners here, and it's a little tricky for me to do that way. So I'm still talking. The show is still on. You just can't see what I'm doing behind the scene. The man behind the curtains. So it's interesting. Uh, that's interesting on how that all worked, and how um, I believe, would they have left Trump just to be yelling and screaming and carrying on, and not have him in the news every day, and people going, hey, what they're going after him, that's not right. Now, it could have been right. Could have been right. But the way it looked and the way Trump was able to spin it, he proved that it wasn't right. The courts said it was not right. Well, well, he appointed these people. You can't go there. Sorry, can't go there. Uh, Trump is now going to be 47, and it will be interesting. Biden, again, he's going to be signing stuff away in the next couple of days, and the that pen will be flying all over the place. But that's what presidents on their going out the door, that's what they do. It's nothing new, and certainly nothing that I would, go, look at what he's doing. He's doing what presidents do. And, you know, uh, I can only imagine what President Trump is going to do. Uh, and it's interesting stuff. Um, let's get to the fires. We all have the fires. That's everyone, and it should be. Um, Read a little blurb uh, that Musk didn't get the answers he thought he would get from asking firefighters about water and lack of water and lack of pressure. And the firemen said, no, we had water. It just it came in trucks, and the the water pressure was down, but we had other sources that we could use. Now, Musk went out there on his own and did this. Um, he's not an elected official. He's not even an appointed official. And he can ask these questions as a private citizen. I think what the mayor and the governor need to do in California is instruct all civil services just to say, hey, go to our media relations people. We can't, we're not authorized to speak about that. Now I know that sounds like they're covering it up. They're being gagged. Well, in a sense, yes, they are. But you don't want a fireman or a policeman or a government employee who's working to say something, and then they get fired. Musk might not even know about that. That person that said that, yeah, they got fired because they were told not to talk, and it's in their contract they signed 12 years ago or papers, and that person could get jammed up. Don't jam up the first responders. Don't ask silly questions. Uh, you know, these are people. They probably haven't slept. A good sleep. They're away from their families. There are people that live locally that worry about their own homes and their own families. So Musk going in there and asking, these firemen, tell us about how you didn't have any water and why the reservoir wasn't filled. It's not his place. Not his place. He can ask it as a private citizen, but really the fire department people and everyone else involved here, no bueno. Talk with the press. Don't do that, because I guarantee you that comes back and bites those people. Musk will find, some other thing to chase after, the red ball that rolls in front of him, and he's off and running. While those other people there, and they go, well, 2 weeks ago, or a month ago, or 6 months ago, we're looking it over, and you spoke, and you weren't allowed to do that. And now this person is suspended, demoted, whatever, and you'll never hear about it. So don't talk to people. Now, Newsom has suspended the California environmental regulations, so rebuilding of homes after the fire can take place, because normally it takes about 18 months to file a permit before even drive a nail in a wall. And these are going, of course, be total rebuilds. So it isn't like, well, I'm just adding windows on my house. There's no environmental impact to that. So he suspended the CEQA, which is the California Environmental Quality Act. But that happened because the people on the Malibu Strip, all their houses burned down, and they want to make sure that they're able to rebuild without a problem. So, and he goes, no, 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 yeah, yeah, don't worry about it. You know, rebuild, 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 and we're going to streamline the permit. We're going to do this. We're not going to do an environmental impact study because some of those houses were built there, 50 years ago before environmental studies. And now everything has to be looked at. So for the people of Malibu on the water that wants to rebuild their houses, like the houses you see if you watch Two and a Half Men and they come up the coast, those houses all burned down. Nice little bar. I used to go out there when I was in Los Angeles, Gladstone's. Little oyster and clams and Pacific seafood. It was very nice. That's gone. So, got a lot of areas that have gotten hit. But the people of Malibu, you can rebuild your houses. I'm sure that's going to be statewide. So, when I say the people of Malibu, it's probably going to be everyone. And of course, the people of Malibu, all movie stars, and probably big donors to the Democrats. So they want to keep them happy. Landlords in that area can't raise their prices on rent. For more than 10%. If your lease came up and they can't say, well, now it's went from $2,900 a month to $3,900 a month. They can't do that. The most it can go up is 10%. Now, I was reading that story too, and what they didn't say is they used an example. This one house in Malibu was a 3 or 4 bedroom mansion Tudor home, and they were asking $29,000 a month for it in December. No one rented it. Come January, they changed the price after the fire to, I think, like $34,000 or $39,000. A little sizable. But no one had bought it at or rented it at 29, and now they're saying, well, they raised it to 34. I think it was 34. And they're not allowed to do that. What happened if they pulled it off the market for a day? We delisted it, and now we're listing it at. Does that count? Do you? I didn't see anything in there about you had to. It had to be delisted for 60 days or something. I didn't see that, and it could possibly be in there. I wasn't going to take the time and read a 78-page report for it buried somewhere on page 22. But interesting. And, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. That, they can't gouge the people. People are going to have to live somewhere, and, how they're going to do it, is going to be the big question. And, who knows? Who knows? Now, coming from New York, I always like New York news. And a couple of weeks ago, I read, and I looked again, that the governor, Oshel, has now passed a law, a provision that it's not seeking, they're going to go after him. $75 billion from fossil fuel companies that they must pay out over 25 years for alleged pollution. Yeah. Anyone see a lawsuit coming? Because you know what's going to happen with that. That's not coming from the shareholders. That's going to come out of people's pockets who pay to have their homes heated and lit by fossil fuel. This is to me, a tax grab. And that works out to $3 billion per year. Now, if New York does it, you don't think New Jersey's not going to do it? And they're looking over other places. It's just not, these fossil fuel companies from New York. If the wind's blowing from Connecticut, that fossil fuel company could be called upon. And if New York's fossil fuel burning facility is blowing over into Connecticut or New Jersey, those states can jump on the bandwagon and elect to do the same thing. So what is their goal? It could only be one thing: get rid of fossil fuel. To make it so expensive that it's not consumer feasible. Because what else can it be? And when they say fossil fuel, it's just not coal. It's gas. It's diesel. And gas, what I'm saying is, natural gas, not gasoline. Very inefficient to use that for generating power. So, you tell me what this is, the bottom line is. I say it's get rid of fossil fuel and make money. And to make money. Because those companies will still be sought after by the state for their money. And it will be through rate increases. You'll pay. This isn't coming out of, quote, a fat cat. This is going to come out of you. So, good job. Good job. The other thing coming out of New York City on Saturday, a horrible, tragic story. And I think it happened on Friday, but it was reported Saturday. That 14-year-old Bronx young man, he was a 14-year-old boy, was walking to school, minding his own business, not a problem. This was a good kid, football player, good student, And even if he wasn't a good kid or a good student, it doesn't matter. He was stabbed to death by a homeless man who had been previously convicted of violent acts. And as of November, I think it was like 27th, was arrested. His last charge was taking a butcher knife and attacking someone's Ring doorbell with it. So the police came, put him in bracelets, took him into the court, and the judge said, all right, release him in his own recognizance. And they put him back out on the street. Now that's because of Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg is no better, in my opinion, as a murderer. He is the same thing as a murderer, in my opinion. He assisted this person. He enabled this person to be out on the street, no bail, no anything. And you tell me if that's right. You tell me, well, crazy people with knives, they're allowed. Well, like a crazy person in California with a blowtorch, lit, walking around while things are burning, and they go, well, he's not an arsonist because we didn't actually see him do it. Uh, uh, I don't know. Is the world crazy now? There's 325 million of us here. Are there going to be crazies? 5%? 5% of 300 million. What is that? 1.5%? 1.5 million crazy people out there? And I don't mean a little crazy. I mean, you know, the old Bugs Bunnies, when he'd be talking to someone and flashing up a screwball sign and bats in the belfry and, jackass. Yeah, yeah. These are people that are walking around our streets. And even here, we see them all the time. Mumbling, God only knows who they're seeing and who they're talking to. And you just, from living in New York City, don't make eye contact. Just keep walking, and if you hear footsteps behind you, turn around real quick and keep that pace going. So crazy, crazy, crazy out of New York. The other thing coming out of New York is that ex-Governor Cuomo is looking at running for mayor of New York against Eric Adams. Everything that Eric Adams is going through. Yeah, I'm not certain Eric Adams is going to be among us, for too long in the political arena. So, everyone around him is being indicted and arrested. So they're just building a case against Adams that they could put a nail in his coffin. So who comes up? Ex-Governor Cuomo. Now, Cuomo was responsible for 50,000 deaths in New York. In my opinion, when he forced people out of hospitals and into nursing facilities that did not provide the same amount of care. They could not provide the same amount of care. So that hospital beds would be free for COVID patients. On top of that, there was the restrictions that no one was allowed to visit people in the hospital. You could not. You couldn't even call in and get an answer on how someone was doing because those lines were busy all the time. And this wasn't just in New York. This was also in just about a lot of the states. It didn't last long here in South Carolina. My wife had injured her foot and put a big gash in it, so I had to take her up to the local hospital. And I was required to drop her off at the emergency room, get her into a wheelchair, tap on the door, point, and they came out and they took her and did what they need to do. But I was not allowed to go into the waiting room. I could wait outside, and, that's what I did. I sat in my car, and she had her cell phone with her, and, but, she's busy getting stitched up. And about 3.5 hours later, I get a text. Yeah, I got stitches. They're wheeling me out, and you know, that was it. And then someone came out to talk to me, and it was funny because he wasn't wearing a mask, and it was one of the doctors that were there. And that's when he had told me, he goes, masks. He goes, forget about wearing a mask. It's a waste of time. But this is what was going on. My son-in-law's father had a stroke, and he couldn't go and be with his dad. So there was no one checking up on these people. There was no one like if someone was the caregiver or spouse and going, I go every day just to make sure at 12 noon she gets her medicine. At 2 o'clock she's having something to eat. At 3 o'clock we watch Dr. Phil together. There was none of that. And these people just started dying right and left. There were a hospital ship brought in. I don't think there was one patient. The uh, uh, convention center in New York turned into a hospital. Beds after bed, never filled. Yet the hospitals, they said, were overflowing. Every state, they're overflowing. We're out of. I have 3 hospitals by me. We spoke to people that we know worked in those hospitals. They weren't filled. As a matter of fact, when my wife was in the hospital for her foot, there were 6 doctors looking at her foot. And they were in military. These were military doctors that had been brought in. And they told my wife that, hey, this is the most interesting thing we saw today. So a lot of that stuff is going to be brought back up if Cuomo runs. And of course, his sexual harassment, thing with, whatever it was, more woke stuff, nonsense stuff. I laugh because any male over the age of 55 can be accused and proved that they might have said something to someone, might have patted a girl on her butt, gave a hug longer than 3 seconds, might have been at a company party and go, hey, you keep getting better looking with every drink. It's something stupid. Well, I never had anyone tell me that, but where does this end? What did he do that was, so horrific? And that the person couldn't say anything for years. Sorry. See something, say something. And if you don't, you got over it. It really is that simple. You can't. Some of these cases that go back 40 years, how can that person defend themselves? Memories fade. People that you could call as a witness, they might not even remember it. Or they're gone. Or the people that were in that store, that store's been gone 20 years. There's no one you could call back. And who would remember? We used to have statutes of limitations. You could only go back so far, and that was it. And that was kind of bent for adults who were, as children, were abused and through counseling now can go forward. So, you could have some little caveats and cutouts, but even that has to stop. If and it's terrible, and I get it, and I'm not. This is not about blame. This isn't about blame. But if you were 13 years old and you know you went out with a 17-year-old and or even a 20-year-old, you told him you were 17 or 16, and now you go back and you're 40 years old and you go, well, you know, he used me. You think that's right? I knew teachers in my high school that were taking female students out for breakfast and in their car during their study halls and stuff. So, I mean, that could not happen today. And did anything take place with that student and that teacher? I don't know. But, we looked at it as like, hey, yeah, hey, teacher. You know, because these girls were 17. They were seniors. Some of them were 18. And a lot of these teachers, it was their first teaching job. They were maybe 23 years old. So you'd look and go, all right. As long as it's not my girlfriend. But that's the way it was. I wonder how many teachers are sitting back now and going, oh my God. Oh my God. I just hope Becky or Susie is not going to say anything. Because now you'd have to defend yourself, and they might remember the whole incident, and I'm sure they would, but you'd still have the prosecution would still have to prove their case. Remember, as in criminal law, it's the state's job to prove your guilt. You could sit there and just go, I don't remember that incident. I don't remember it. Or, that's not how I remember it. I took her out to International House of Pancakes. And she seemed like she was having some problems, and, and we talked, and I said, if you need someone to talk to, you come talk to me. And he goes, nothing happened. The state would have to prove that something happened. And it would have to be beyond a reasonable doubt. But in the meantime, this guy is spending $50,000, $60,000 on attorney fees, trying to find information back, trying to find other people that could corroborate what he had said. And then, this girl would go, well, I told all my girlfriends about it. And they come and they go, oh, yeah, she told me, oh, they did this, or he kissed her, he did, And, again, that's basically just her saying it. It's not hearsay evidence, but, I don't know who she spoke to. I don't know what she told those. I can only tell you what I remember. And those guys get jammed up. And it's not right. Not right. Well, enough about that. I'm going to be reading some more today. on the real Anthony Fauci. Interesting book. I'm taking that with me. I have to drive someone to Charleston today and then drive back and then play cards tonight. It's Tuesday night. I doubt if I will do a show tonight, but if there is late breaking news or if there's something going on that you know, I won't remember until, I won't remember what I'm going to write. I try, doing all this on cards and put them out here. As I said, I'm not a very smart man. Uh, so I need all this stuff. I do show prep. Um, I go on the internet. I go on MSNBC. I go on Fox. I go on New York Times, LA Times, New York Post, bleh. Uh, the Washington Post, even more. Bleh. But and I look at some of these same news stories and then piece them together. Uh, and some of them are wild, absolutely. I mean, off the chart. It's almost like a rant. And then you look and you go, oh, it's an opinion, and that's how they fool you. And they put it inside news brackets, but then it's an opinion. And that's the way they go, that's just an opinion. That's someone's opinion. And yet, they planted the seed. And it's all right. I get it. It gets done. But there are a lot of people that fall prey to that. And, you know, and a lot of people that turn around and call Republicans and MAGA uneducated and stupid people. And all I know is that no one has said that to my face. But I would have a reply for them. And they might not like that reply. Not violent. Never violent. There's no need for violence. But they will get humiliated. I will humiliate them. And make them prove. I will get them to say they're wrong. And they'll go, of course, oh, you're the exception. You're the one. And no. No, I'm not the exception. A lot of smart people out there that never went to college. A lot of stupid people out there that went to college. So it kind of balances out. And that's why the draft, and believe me, I was caught up in that. I didn't want to get drafted. Was really good because it took such a cross section of people. It took people that were writers, going to be lawyers, going to school, with people that had an 8th grade education. Put them together, and what they found is some of those people that had 8th grade educations, when they came out of the military, went back to school and got their education, through the GI Bill. So when I hear, oh, you're stupid, you don't know anything, you guys all got fooled, you all got fooled. And, and you look back and you go, well, really, you don't feel fooled that Biden, in the last 2 years of his presidency, was not functioning correctly, and yet you had a Pelosi and Obama and a host of others come out there and say he's perfectly fine. He's going to run and win a second term. He's going to complete a second term, and you found out, that wasn't the case. And not a word about, you were stupid to believe that. Were you lied to? Yep. Yep, you were lied to. Were you stupid? Nope. Because you believed them. You believed it. Were you gullible? Yeah. Did you not see it for yourself? No, you can't lie about that. If you support a candidate, you have listened to him and they were only putting like 15-second snippets of him, because if you watch the whole thing, he was off the rails, but they weren't showing that. And when you were told to do that, you would just say, it was rhetoric. This is your rhetoric. But you didn't listen. And you didn't follow through. Doesn't make you stupid. Not at all. Made you gullible. And you guys lost everything because you were gullible. If you want to know, if you're a Democrat, if you're a liberal, if you're a progressive, and want to know why you lost, and you guys lost bad, against a Trump, just find any mirror, look at it, point your finger like that, and you'll find why you lost. All right, enough. Again, if Robert B. from New York is watching this, feel free to call me, and we can debate. I just wish we could hit one another with beer cap bottles again when we argued. But that's for a different story and a different day. For now, I'm just going to fade away to black.